show you again from a wide open throttle what that's like. Go around here. So here's a wide open throttle now. All the way up to red line. Just hold it. And 60 backs off. So, I mean, welcome to Drive Culture. I'm Jonathan Rivers, and today I have a 2026 Honda HR-V all-wheel drive Sport. And I'm going to tell you why this is probably the best trim in the entire HR-V lineup. So we'll go over the exterior, the interior, the powertrain, and of course, take it for a drive. So if this is content you're after or you're new to the channel, please be sure to click that bell to subscribe to come back for more. And with that, let's get after it. Now, guys, here we are with the recently refreshed Honda HR-V all-wheel drive Sport. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about maybe the history of the Honda HR-V, and then we'll get into the pricing and trims and things like that. So first and foremost, it's kind of a complicated story because the HR-V name and product lineup is kind of different depending on where you live across the world. There's certain HR-Vs in other marketplaces in Europe and in Asia that aren't sold here in the US. It's literally not the car that you see here today. So let's take a step back. So the very first Honda HR-V was in the late 90s, and that wasn't sold here in the US. That was actually based off of a car in Europe and Asia called the Honda Logo, right? So that was actually where the very first generation of the Honda HR-V came from. But fast forward several years into the early 2000s, and then the second generation Honda HR-V came into the marketplace, and yes, it was sold here in the US, and that one was based off of the third gen Honda Fit, right? So that was a much smaller car, much smaller platform. Did have the cool like magic seats in the second row, but that was the second generation Honda HR-V, which went on sale here in the US back in 2015. So it's been a decade since that second generation launch. Now we have this third generation Honda HR-V, and it actually launched back in 2023. And you can tell just right away, this is a much bigger vehicle than that second generation because it went from a Honda Fit platform to basically the same platform that underpins like things like the Honda Civic. So it's a much bigger platform, made the car bigger, more premium, more room inside. So fast forward to today, and now we're at the 2026 model year for the HR-V, and Honda has recently done a mild refresh to kind of keep things new. So we're going to cover all those details, but let's also talk about the trim lineup now for 2026. So essentially it's pretty easy. There's three trims. There's the LX trim, the entry-level trim. That one is actually $26,200, guys. I mean, that is crazy to think about in today's marketplace when the average price of a new vehicle is basically 50 grand. So 26.2 gets you into the LX. Then if you jump up to the Sport trim, it actually goes to $28,000. Then there's the top EXL. That's where things stop. There's no touring or elite like some of the other Honda products. It stops at the EXL, which is $30,050 MSRP. But any of those trims, those are all two-wheel drive cars. They can be added with all-wheel drive, which bumps up the price $1,500 to any of those MSRPs. So this particular car here is the all-wheel drive Sport. So it's $28,000 and then an additional $1,500 because it has all-wheel drive, making this car's MSRP $29,500, not including D&H and paint and things like that. But let's go ahead and talk about the paint because what we got here is an all-new color for HR-V from 2026, and it's in other products in the Honda lineup, but it's new to HR-V, and it's called Boost Blue Pearl. It's a really nice baby blue, looks great here on the HR-V. That is actually a premium paint, an extra $455. So if you were to add that in, of course, to the $29,500, you're still under $30,000 MSRP for a brand new vehicle with great features, technology, design, and on. And we're going to go into all those details. So next, let's go ahead and do a full exterior walk around of this 2026 Honda HR-V all-wheel drive Sport. All right, guys, here we are with the exterior design of this 2026 Honda HR-V all-wheel drive Sport. And like I mentioned in the intro part, I mean, this is a small refresh of the HR-V lineup, but it really consists of a couple features and very, very small design elements, including the addition of this new color, Boost Blue Pearl. So let me know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. What do you think of this color here on the HR-V? It's obviously on a few more like Civic models. Even something like the Civic Type R offers this kind of exciting baby blue color. But let me know your guys' thoughts and comments on it being on this HR-V. I personally think it looks really good. The HR-V already had a kind of premium, kind of clean surface to design, and the color just really helps to, kind of accentuate that. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the styling details here. So you got these, nice sharp lines here in the hood that come down to that bold chrome H badge. Again, there was really no like styling changes at this refresh. The HR-V already looked good, was selling well, so they didn't make a lot of changes to its design. You do get LED headlights as well as LED daytime running lights. They look really premium and good when they're lit up. But let's go ahead. You can see the grille here. It's functional. It's open. I like that it's kind of a matte finish on this trim. Sometimes they put piano black on their grills, but this one is a matte finish, kind of a very aggressive design. And that carries down low as well. So this whole kind of, front lip is essentially all that matte black finish. So looks really premium and good. And again, being the kind of, second trim in the lineup, it doesn't have all the features. It doesn't have things like LED fog lights, but again, the pricing and the positioning of this kind of makes the case that it doesn't need it. So let's go ahead and take in the entire side profile. So here you go. You can see it. Again, no, real changes to the body or sheet metal at this mid-cycle refresh. Just has a really clean design. We'll talk about some of the changes of this, because this is the sport level trim. You obviously go from LX, and then the sport gives you a lot of black accents, as you could imagine. So let's go ahead first and take a look at the wheels. So this is actually one of the change points for this 2026 refresh. So it's an all new wheel design. It's still the same size that it was before. So it's an 18-inch wheel, painted in their kind of Berlina black. You do get black lug nuts, which is really nice. And you get some decent tires here that really help for overall fuel efficiency. So these are 225 55 R18 tires. So good wheel and tire package there. You get that same kind of matte treatment around the fenders here, down the entire length of the vehicle to the rear as well. But up top, you get a couple gloss black accents like the mirror caps here. They are LED turn signals and heated side mirrors as well. The matte treatment along the window, the B pillars. Overall, again, just a very clean design. And then if we start to make our way to the rear, one of the things that you get with the sport trim is this kind of roof spoiler up here is painted in this gloss black. So that and the mirror caps and the wheels are really the things that'll let you know that you're looking at a sport level trim for the HR-V. And here we are in the rear, taking the entire profile in the rear. Again, looks very premium and good. There's really nice LED tail lights. They look great unlit and lit up as well at night. Let's get a look closer. You can see that chrome H badge there. Above it, you'll see the all-wheel drive badge is essentially a sticker. So a lot of other Honda models will actually have like a chrome candy bar badge for all-wheel drive, but here on the HR-V, it's actually placed right below the rear windshield wiper. So HR-V, matte black for the emblem, matte black for the sport emblem. So those are some new details as well. But down below, you got a rear diffuser, a single exhaust finisher. And again, I think with that silver accent, it kind of completes things. Looks pretty good. But, as one last thing I'm going to point out here. So before I say it, let me know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. Do you know what HR-V stands for? I'm not going to lie, I had to look it up, but it actually stands for High Rider Revolutionary Vehicle. So there you go. With that, I think we've covered everything on the exterior of this HR-V. So next, let's go ahead and hop inside to talk about the interior. All right, guys, here we are inside this Honda HR-V all-wheel drive Sport. And obviously, we already talked about the pricing on the exterior, but let's hit it again. This car, even if you count the paint and everything else, is under $30,000 MSRP. And the moment you get in, you're kind of like, wow, because it does not look like it's, less than $30,000. It's actually really premium in here. There's a lot of great soft touch materials, kind of leather materials, contrast stitching throughout. Is really quite impressive what you get for the price point. So let's jump right into it. So first and foremost, let's talk about the dash. So they could have just taken the exact same dash design that they've used on some of the other models, but HR-V, while it carries over some of that same honeycomb mesh that goes over the vents, it does have a different look and feel than something like, say, the CR-V or even the Honda Civic. So it has kind of a unique design here, but it carries the entire length of the dash. And it is like a real kind of like metal material, so it looks and feels very premium. But even on the top of the dash, you got some soft touch materials up here, but this whole piece here that kind of wraps around those vents is actually like a leatherette material that's very soft to the touch, looks premium. You get a little bit of the orange contrast stitching, which really carries out throughout the rest of the interior. So next thing I'm going to point out is the steering wheel. It's a great size for, first of all, for the overall shape, the diameter size, but it's also a great thickness. It's not too thick, not too skinny. Does have orange contrast stitching all the way around. Typical Honda, you got the chrome H badge on the airbag cover, volume controls on the left, all of your cruise control, ADAS controls on the right, and then just kind of a piano black trim. Very good steering wheel, easy to maneuver. Again, I think part of it is just this car, and we'll talk about it more during the drive. It's the right size. I mean, of course CRV is great, but this car is just a little bit smaller, and so it's great for zipping around towns, flying into parking spaces. It's really easy to maneuver, and some of that is with the steering wheel as well. So next, let's go ahead and talk about this whole center console area. So coming down from the screen, we'll get to the tech here in a second. Again, you have all your controls for the climate. They are physical knobs. It is a single automatic climate control system. There's no dual zone on this trim, but you do get that same kind of tactile feeling and buttons here that are very easy to read, easy layout, very nice. Coming down below, you get two USB-C charge ports, one for data, one specifically for charging. And then below that, you got a rubberized mat with a wireless charge pad. So lots of connectivity, again, for sub $30,000. Two cup holders here, and then this kind of whole almost like floating center console design is really nice because it's padded with this kind of like leatherette material, the contrast stitching here. Even here on the mechanical shifter, you get a nice shift knob, orange contrast stitching on the boot, and it takes you to this floating area here where this little centerpiece essentially houses your toggle switch for the drive modes, hill descent control, your electronic parking brake and brake hold function, which is nice. But then, like I said, it's floating, so you kind of have this area as a pass through, and you have a rubberized mat. And on the driver's side, you have another USB-C charge port. So just here, right in the driver's reach, there are four ways to charge your devices. So that's pretty impressive. Plenty of places to charge. The center armrest opens up. I got a lot of junk in here, but it's actually pretty deep. Really nice space there. Continuing, of course, you got your traditional glove box, and then you got some pretty big cup holders here on the door. So on the door at the top, you still get the kind of soft touch material that carries from the dash. Nice, like kind of silver door handles, premium touch points for all the window controls. And again, the same contrast stitching, the orange stitching carries over to the doors. And then down below on the doors, it might look like it's a shadow, but no, there's actually this kind of ribbed effect to the plastic that kind of just, again, it could just be a simple shape, but they added this kind of rib design to it to kind of make it look and feel a lot more premium. So next, let's go ahead and talk about the seats. Now, again, that's why if this is the sport trim, doesn't have leather seats. If you want leather seats, you have to jump up to the EXL trim, L for leather. But I'll say this, these are some of the nicest cloth seats you can get. I mean, they're a very nice cloth material. Has a very nice pattern here in the center, orange contrast stitching all the way around, and then they're just a very good seat. Like, they have very good side bolsters, hip bolsters, adjustable headrests. The driver's side is and the passenger side, they're both manual on this trim, so again, keeping in mind the price point, it's still okay. But very nice seats, and they are both three-stage heated seats as well. So very nice function there. On this trim, let's talk about some of the tech. So right here in the center, you now on this sport trim get a 9-inch color touchscreen. So before, if you were getting like the LX or the sport trim, you only got a 7-inch color touchscreen with wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You had to step up to the EXL to get the larger 9-inch color touchscreen. But now, even on the entry trims, you get a 9-inch color touchscreen. Now, it doesn't have all the same functionality as that top EXL trim, but again, for the price point, it makes sense. What it does give you though is now wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility come on this trim. And the screen resolution's good, latest CarPlay, all the software works well. Really easy to pair your phone, which is nice. Now, directly in front of you, you've kind of got a combination. You've got an analog speedometer, kind of a traditional gauge off to the right, and then the left side is digital. So, like your RPM, your fuel economy readouts, all of that stuff can be cycled through. So it's, again, given the price point, you're not going to expect to see a full digital instrument cluster, but you get half of one, and it is customizable. Next, let's talk about the audio. So again, for this trim, you get a 6-speaker, 180-watt audio system. And while that may not sound like an impressive spec, the sound system sounds really good for this trim. And you can obviously go into the equalizer and change your settings, but I'll be honest. I'll say if you tweak it right and play it at a good volume, at first glance, you might think this has the Bose system. It really sounds good given that it's only 6 speakers. Now, lastly, there is no opening moonroof on this trim. Again, you have to step up to the EXL to get that on HR-V. But with it being the sport trim, the headliner and everything is black and looks really premium as well. So I think I've covered everything up in the front row. Next, let's go ahead and hop in that second row. All right, guys, here we are in the second row of the Honda HR-V. And this is where it's really surprising, right? Because, like I said, the second generation Honda HR-V here in the US was based off the Honda Fit. So that was admittedly a very small vehicle, right? Even in the second row, it felt pretty cramped. But this third generation HR-V is a much longer, much bigger vehicle, and it is instantly noticeable the second you sit in the second row. So again, as always, I say I'm about 5'10". And this is my actual driving position as well. I've got tons of knee room here, guys. No problem. Tons of headroom, good shoulder room across. It is a 5-passenger vehicle, so you can definitely have someone here in the center. Probably a smaller kid sits in the middle, and then another adult over here. But again, plenty of space. I can easily fit my feet under this front seat. Just lots of good packaging here. The floor is also almost, completely flat. There's a slight hump here in the middle, but nothing bad. And obviously, whoever's sitting here in the middle, they'd still have plenty of room for their feet as well. The same materials that you get up front, kind of the cloth like materials for the seats, carries over here. The same contrast stitching, the kind of same premium touch points. Again, for this price point, it is very, very good. You do get adjustable headrest here in the second row, which is nice. One map pocket behind the passenger seat. And then even on the doors, those same kind of leatherette materials with the orange contrast stitching, the big speaker grills, that kind of ribbed plastic design at the bottom of the door carries over as well. So good touch points throughout. But here in the center, you basically have a big pocket back here. So there are no rear AC vents and there is no connectivity. You can see there's a plate for one because if you step up to the EXL, then it adds some more charging. But again, like I said, there's still 4 places to charge your devices up in the first row. So no one's going to be short on battery. But outside of that, next, let's talk about this booster seat that's next to me. So I always have it in here as a reference. To be fair, right now, I probably have the passenger seat pretty far back. And despite that, there's still lots of leg and knee room for your kids. And even if you had one of those rear giant, rear facing child seats, it would fit in easy. and your kid would have plenty of space. And then, bonus point is the fact that the latches are already exposed and super easy to attach. So with that, I think we've covered everything here in the second row. Next, let's go ahead and check out the cargo area. All right, guys, here we are with the cargo area of the Honda HR-V Sport. With the price point, like I said, you're not going to find things like a power tailgate on this trim, but it's pretty easy to open it up. It's a manual latch. You just pull, lifts right up, struts take it to the top, and what it will reveal is a lot of space back here, guys. So despite it being a small, compact crossover, there's actually a lot of good usable space back here. Materials are nice, the carpet's nice, you do get some LED lights back here, a 12-volt socket back here, and then the second row are 60/40 folding rear seats. So when those fold down, it's almost flat, and you can actually carry quite a bit in this small compact crossover. But with the seats up like it is now, there's actually 24.4 cubic feet of space. And if you were to fold those down, it actually jumps to 55.1 cubic feet of space, which is a ton. You can easily crush some Costco runs and do a lot of shopping in this small vehicle. Now, underneath, there's actually even a little bit of underfloor storage. So you lift it up, there's kind of a foam insert here with 3 pockets. So if you wanted to keep things out of sight, you could put things down here. If you lift it up, there's even a jack. So there's a little bit of tools underneath as well. But overall, like I said, it's a lot of space given the size of this vehicle. So next, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain. All right, next, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain of the Honda HR-V. Now, no matter which trim you go with, whether it's the LX, the Sport trim, or even the top of the line EXL trim, they all have the same engine and transmission. Now, like I said, they're also all available with multiple drivetrains, but in this one that we have here, this is the HR-V all-wheel drive Sport. So this uses Honda's naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. And in this configuration, it makes 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque, made it exclusively to a CVT transmission. And yes, 2-wheel drive, front-wheel drive is standard, with all-wheel drive being an option like the one that we have here. Of course, there's no better way than to prove it out though than to get behind the wheel. So next, let's go ahead and take this thing for a drive. All right, guys, here we are inside the 2026 Honda HR-V all-wheel drive Sport, and we're gonna go ahead and take this thing for a drive. So grab my seatbelt here, plug that in, foot on the brake, hit the engine start-stop button. Starts right up. Pretty warm day today, so I'll keep the AC on for a bit here. But yeah, starts right up, and like always, we'll do the typical drive route that I go on. We'll talk about the drive modes, chassis suspension, things like that. So go ahead and put it into gear. So it does have one of these mechanical shift levers, so just pull it back into D. And then I've mentioned this on several of my videos. It does have an electronic parking brake. The nice thing about it though is you don't always have to manually disengage or engage it. If you have your seatbelt on, you can literally just give a slight touch of the gas, automatically disengages the parking brake, and you're on your way. So I'm gonna go ahead and set off here. So one of the things I've really been talking about this car, obviously in the video, is its price point, right? And especially given today's marketplace where things in general are just very expensive, let alone new vehicles, which, the average price, as I mentioned, is nearly 50,000 US dollars. So, vehicles aren't cheap. So to be able to find one that's sub $30,000 MSRP, with all these features, content, premium materials, things like that, that's really hard to do. But the HR-V pretty much hits that in spades, right? And all the while, it kind of fits what most people are looking for, being a small, compact SUV, and really delivers still with kind of a fun driving spirit, right? It's got the naturally aspirated 2-liter engine, 158 horsepower, so it's not meant to be a race car or anything like that, but for getting around town, even driving at freeway speeds, it's plenty of power to get you where you need to go. So One of the things that we'll talk about as we set out here are the drive modes and the little toggle switches here on this floating center console area. So I'll show you right now. If you slide up, there's essentially 3 drive modes. Pretty simple here. You know, some of the cars in the Honda lineup have up to 7 different drive modes, but there's only 3 here. So pulling back gets you to snow mode. So very sunny day in Southern California, won't need that. But obviously what that's going to do is adjust the all-wheel drive system, overall throttle response, things like that to give you maximum traction control. The next one, and we'll kind of start in this, is the econ driving mode. So again, this also is just gonna, you know, dial back the throttle response a little bit, even adjust the climate control, right, to give you maximum, you know, fuel economy. And I'll go ahead and put the fuel economy ratings down below here so you can see the numbers for city, highway, and combined. But yeah, very easy to get into the low 30 miles per gallon on the freeway. You don't even have to hypermill it. Again, it's a pretty good fuel efficient vehicle. But I'm just driving in econ mode here. I'm gonna come up to my typical route. Econ mode doesn't change anything else as far as like the steering, and obviously there's no adaptive suspension or things like that. You just really notice it from a throttle response perspective. It just kind of like, you know, makes it a little bit slower to respond, so you're not eating up as much gas. So here we're gonna go ahead and do these kind of train tracks that I always drive over. The first one, mildly aggressive. The second one, pretty aggressive. So I'm gonna try to go over them both at the same speed of about 35 miles an hour. So I'm just gonna go over it here. The first one, yeah, pretty good. Just a little bit of vibration into the cabin, but I mean, to be expected for this type of vehicle. The second one here is a little bit more aggressive, and so I always kind of brace myself no matter what car I'm in to go over it just to see how it feels. So slow down right about 37 miles an hour. So here we go. Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, virtually no, you know, vibrations into the cabin, just a little bit of noise as we went over, which is good and to be expected. I mean, some of the cars, if you watch Drive Culture before, especially the sports cars, the tuner cars, the very low cars to the ground, you know, you go over a train track like that and it'll literally lift you out of the seat. So you can instantly tell in these types of, you know, city cars and things like that, that the suspension is meant to handle all types of surfaces, and HR-V, again, no problems there. So I'm gonna go back and switch up into normal drive mode. So this is technically the default mode, and you know, honestly, again, being a hot day, one of the things I noticed is as soon as I turned it up into normal from econ, the you know, climate control just got a little bit stronger. So again, you can tell that it's dialing it back in the econ drive mode. Throttle response kind of picked up as well, and you know, the engine gets a little bit buzzy at certain speeds, but for the most part, you know, with the fact that it's a CVT, not everybody knows technically how to, you know, extract the most power out of a car with the CVT. You know, a lot of people just are inclined to go wide open throttle and floor it, and you know, what that's going to do is create a lot of engine drone. You know, it's just going to be sitting at the highest level of RPMs. But you know, if you know where the meat of the power is in the torque band, you kind of want to like peg the throttle at that, you know, speed and just leave it there, and then you kind of get this like continuous build of power. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here. Now, one of the other things I'll do is I'll pull back the mechanical shift letter from D into S, and when I do that, there's no sport mode in HR-V, but this kind of creates a sport mode. It really dials up the response from the transmission, and you can, just like that, I mean, a very soft, you know, push of the throttle, and all of a sudden it just jumps gears, and well, simulated gears, and you know, tries to give you as much, you know, power as possible. Again, even with the S mode, it's, you know, not fast. It's not meant to be, like I said, a race car or anything like that, but it definitely helps to, you know, bring you up to speed. So especially if you're going to be, you know, merging on the freeway and you really need to get up to speed quickly, it'd probably be best to pull back from D into S and, you know, just kind of keep it around 4,000 RPM and just hold it, and you'll build speed pretty quickly in this thing. So I'll show you again from a wide open throttle what that's like. Go around here. So here's a wide open throttle now. All the way up to red line. Just hold it. And 60 backs off. So I mean, it takes time to get up there. It's obviously, you know, pulling as hard as it can, especially in the S mode. But like I said, this car is more about city driving, getting good fuel economy, and doing it so in a nice compact package. Which, like I said, I think that the beauty of this car is its pricing, its trim structure, the features, content that you get for that price point. Like I said, it's really hard to beat. But let me know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. You know, what else is on your mind in this segment? What else do you think can compete with the HR-V? Be happy to hear your guys' thoughts and comments down below. But like I said, in this marketplace, to give you all this, and I think even just the refresh change points they did for 2026, adding the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, the larger color touchscreen, the updated wheel designs, the new colors, just these small changes they made have really made this an even more compelling package. But before we go ahead and wrap up, let's just do one more blast. I'm actually back in D, and yes, there is a definite difference between the D and the S for the transmission, and in some cases you can actually pull back an S to decelerate because it instantly, you know, raises the RPM to kind of bring the vehicle to a halt. So I mean, there's a couple functions in using that S setting for the transmission. But lastly, the last thing I'll talk about is the handling. The handling on this car is really good. Again, that, you know, platform that it rides on is sporty. You know, even that it's a little bit higher up, still has some good turn in there. The chassis, the dynamics for this car, you know, again, like I said, it's not meant to be anything overly sporty, but it does feel pretty fun to drive at most occasions. So again, that's it for the Honda HR-V all-wheel drive Sport. Let me know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this drive review. All right, guys, that's a wrap. What did you think of the 2026 Honda HR-V all-wheel drive Sport? Is this really the best trim in the entire HR-V lineup? Is this really one of the best small, compact crossovers in the entire market? Let me know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. Also, of course, let me know if you want to see other competitors to the HR-V, even from other brands, here on Drive Culture, because of course I'd be happy to bring you that content. So if you joined me before, thank you so much. But if you're new to the channel, please be sure to click that bell to subscribe, to come back for more. Thanks, and we'll see you at the next episode.